Hello, everybody, and welcome to another expanded guide here at Playing Board Games. If you don't know what an expanded guide is, because you're just clicking on this video for the first time, Travis has compiled a list of notable cards for an investigator for all the cycles released at the time that the guide was made, which at this point goes up to Edge of the Earth and the investigator packs. So we're going to go through, we're going to talk about why the cards are notable, we're going to talk about the investigator, and hopefully this gives you a better idea of what cards you should look for in the cycles you have to make the best out of Luke Robinson in this case. As well, if you're just checking out, consider liking and subscribing. And that's enough of my intro. Travis, why don't you take it away and you can talk about who Luke Robinson is, what he does, and what these cards on this page do.
Okay, so it's Luke Robinson. He is the Mystic Investigator from the Dream cycle. He gets to play Mystic cards 0 to 5, Seeker cards 0 to 2, and neutral cards, of course. Standard deck size. It's got a pretty, honestly, not super great stat line, but it's good for what he does. He's got 4 brain, 3 book, 2 punch, and 3 foot. It's going to lend yourself mostly to using your brain stat, and you can use your book and your foot in a pinch, though. He's only got 5 health and 9 sanity, which can prove problematic, especially if you take an early physical trauma or two, but you do have options to mitigate that. In addition to his other player cards, he has to play a copy of the Gate Box, which is the thing that Luke does. It's his real ability. He can also play an event once each turn as if you're connecting location. But the Gate Box is the thing he does. You start with it in play. It's got 3 charges. There's a lightning bolt. You can exhaust it and spend 1 charge to disengage from each enemy engaged with you. Search your bond cards for Dream Gate Wondrous Journey, put into play, and move to it. Dream Gate Wondrous Journey is a double-sided card. Double-sided location. The other side interacts with his weakness. And note the Wondrous Journey side is 1 shroud, 0 clues. It's bonded to the Gate Box and is connected to each other revealed location and vice versa. Enemies and investigators other than Luke cannot enter the Dream Gate, and force at the end of the investigation phase, you set the Dream Gate aside, and if he is there, you move him to any revealed location of your choice. His weakness is detached from reality. If the Dream Gate Wondrous Journey is already in play, you flip it over, so you'll be at the Pointless Reality side. Otherwise, you search your bond cards for it and put the Pointless Reality side into play and move there. The Pointless Rally side has 6 shroud, and again, enemies and investigators other than Luke cannot enter the Dream Gate. As a reaction, when you successfully investigate the Dream Gate, you can flip it to the Wondrous Journey side, and forced at the end of the investigation phase, you set the Dream Gate aside out of play. But if Luke Robinson is still there, you move him to any revealed location, and he takes 2 horror, which honestly is pretty soft, considering that you start with 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, so things that Luke has going for him, he has an incredibly strong deck building pool. Mystic 0 to 5 is a great place to be, and Seeker 0 to 2. There's lots of synergies between those two classes, especially if you're looking at getting clues. And then the purple side of things, the Mystic cards give him flexibility in dealing with enemies if the Gate Box itself isn't enough. The things that he does poorly are, he's a Mystic with only 4 brain, is the really big one, which can be a little bit tough for using some of the lower level spells. Things like Shriveling level 0 or Rite of Seeking level 0 aren't great when you're testing 4 or even just 5 with a Holy Rosary or something like that.
Yeah. So when you're looking at a Luke Robinson deck, Travis, what kind of cards do you look for that you think can best take advantage of Luke? Before we get into the notable cards, what should if someone's interested in Luke, what should they be looking for their cards to get the most advantage out of him?
I didn't talk about too much in the intro, but cards that interact with his ability that you can play at connecting locations is something that Luke does better than he can do that other investigators can't. In general, that's a big thing to look at when you're looking at what to play in investigators, is what do they do that other investigators can't.
Yeah.
Or what do they do better? So things like Shortcut, Storm of Spirits, there's lots of events that you can get a lot more flexibility out of because of Luke's ability. And then other than that, I'm generally just looking for cards that let me investigate good.
Yeah, yeah.
You can definitely be You can definitely play as a generalist or as a even a monster fighter is fine. Yellow has some neat options for that, or you can just play the yellow cards for utility. But I personally enjoy playing Luke as a seeker or as a Kluger.
Heck yeah. All right, let's dive in. Bryn, I'm going to throw these first core sets to you, and let's talk about some stuff here.
All right. We got us a magnifying glass. This one is one of the cards covered in our Staples videos, which should be linked below the video. It just makes your book one better while you're investigating. It's pretty much the time that you care about that. It's good. It's fast. Luke's 3 is pretty weak, but 4 is entirely workable. We got Dr. Milan Christopher. Again, he's covered in just the yellow Staples video. He's just really good. Lots of money, makes your book better. Got Working a Hunch. This one is, again, also covered in the clue gathering Staples video, but is better in Luke Robinson than it is in anyone else because you can play it as though you were at a connecting location, allowing you to gain a clue someplace without ever actually entering the location. Worth noting, you can't use this to dodge the pointless reality because it's not an investigation.
Yep.
We got Deduction. More clues is more better, something like that.
No, that is the math equation. It is. More clues is more better. I love that.
I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. We got the Holy Rosary. This one is particularly important in Luke if you want to play with most of the purple cards because you only have 4 Brain as base. Getting up to 5 is a notable boost. Most of the level 0 options don't actually increase your Brain, so you're going to need to get up a little bit higher than 4 in order to be reliably passing tests. We got Shriveling. This is one of the options to make your Brain score do a thing, in this case, fighting guys. We got the Arcane Initiate. She is covered in the purple Staples video. But if you're playing a lot of spells, she's kind of just free card draw, and sure, she starts with a Doom on her, but that's pretty easy to mitigate. And lastly, here we have Drawn to the Flame. This card can be kind of wild. Because you get to play purple cards, the Mythos deck is not particularly threatening to you. There's very little you can't get away from or not take serious damage from.
Yeah.
Horror doesn't really do anything to you,
Yeah.
and you can pass a Brain or a Foot test fairly easily if you need to. But this one, you draw the top card of the encounter deck, then discover 2 clues at your location. Now, as for Luke Robinson, your location doesn't need to actually be your location. Note that you do have to play it as though you were engaged with all enemies at the location. So if there are enemies there, this one is not fast, and you will get attacked. Though if you play this one from the Wondrous Journey,
oh my god, yeah.
Enemies can't spawn there.
Yeah.
So.
And then something gets if you draw one that gets attached to your location, you're like, see ya, right? Like it's hot tech in Luke. It's nice. Keeping the core set going, I got Water Protection. This one's it's a staple. It's really good. Play it. It stops a Mythos card, even though Luke can handle them, but still, it's a good card. It's a staple. We have the skill staples here. We got Perception, Unexpected Courage, and Guts. These help your book, your wilds, and your brains get better, which are the stats we're going to probably be using the majority of the time. So they're good filler cards for the last little bit. And even at this point now, you could... They run until the end of the campaign too. They give you +2 to a stat and replace themselves later. Just very nice staple cards. Upgraded Magnifying Glass if you have the basic one and you want this one. Nothing wrong with it. But we talk about that more about why you may want that in the clue getting staple video, which you can find down in the description, as Bryn said. We have Disc of Idzamna. This is a good way that if you don't want to deal with an enemy, like if you would just like to pretend they don't exist, you can play this, set it and forget it, and then when an enemy spawns, you can discard that enemy. Just some enemy management if you are... With Luke Robinson especially too, you're going to be moving all over the place, and you also actually like don't have the downside of being trapped by an enemy because you can just walk away. Like as Travis said, the gate box is like Luke's real power, and there's a lot of gross stuff you can do with it. So Disc of Insomnia is kind of just further protection on that. Like it's basically, you should treat this less as like a defensive card in Luke and more of like a kill spell, so to speak. It just kills an enemy when you get it. You're like, I'm going to kill the next enemy that appears. Grotesque Statue. When you reveal Chaos tokens, reveal 2 and choose 1. That's really good. It means you're more likely to pass your tests, and passing tests is nice. Then we have Bulletproof Vest. If you have a limited collection and you're looking, how the heck can I keep Luke Robinson alive? Or maybe you got a little bit of trauma and Bulletproof Vest is the only option available to you, consider it because it does just soak for 4 in a slot that you're probably not going to have anything else in with this color combination, unless you're wearing the Endless robes, but Luke already has robes, so he doesn't have to worry about that. Travis, we're on to Dunwich.
Yeah. First up, we have Shortcut, which is mostly covered in the Seeker Staples video, but I'm going to talk about a little bit here because of its... You can move someone who is really far away from you, like even like also really far away with this card. Mm-hmm. There is a question about this. I think is fairly obvious when you play this card, where what if I choose to like move myself to a different location? Mm-hmm. And I just don't do that. If there's a lot of ambiguity with the as if rules for Luke being at other locations, and honestly, I just try to make decisions that make it so I don't have to think about it.
It is easier that way, isn't it?
Yeah, Shortcut's really good. You can, especially from, I mean, like it's not to say this. We don't have to say this for every event. Like they're all really good from the Wondrous Journey, where you can do them at any location on the map. Okay.
Yeah.
But Shortcut being able to like move someone who is at a location beside you to your location, so you can like fight a monster or something like that, or move them to a location that's further away if they need an extra move action, or plus all of the usual utility of Shortcut. Great card for Luke. Mm-hmm. Red Seeking is one of the good cards for his Clue Gang stuff. His Clue Gang builds where you get to use your brain to get clues. And that's good. You know, it's very similar to Clairvoyance and to a lesser extent Eye of Chaos. You can talk about some of the differences between those in our spells video. Got Ritual Candles, it's a hand slot asset for Luke. After you reveal one of the symbol tokens, you get +1 skill value for this test. This card's like not flashy or anything, but it's pretty solid. Just helps you pass tests and mitigate your lowish stats a little bit. Next up, we got Delve Too Deep in our Mystic Staples video. This one just gets you some extra experience, which is always nice for Mystics, as all of your good cards most of your good cards cost a pile of experience. Next up, we got Preposterous Sketches. This is a 2-cost event that you play only if there's a clue in your location. You get to draw 3 cards. Again, with Luke's video, Luke's ability, there doesn't have to be a clue on your location. It can be a clue on an adjacent location as well. Mm-hmm. And then we have Inquiring Mind, which commits for 3 wild. You commit to a skill test only if there's a clue at your location. This one you can't scum with Luke because it's not an event, but it's still just a really solid card, pushing your foot up to like 6 in the Mythos phase, or your brain up to 7, or whatever stat the game asks you to test. Then we got Alyssa Graham. She is a purple ally that gives you +1 book, and then she does another thing too. This is mostly just like, she has the top card of the, I think, counter deck or any player deck, and you can add a Doom to her to put the looked at card in the bottom of the deck. You can filter through the encounter deck a little bit more for your teammates than yourself, as we've gone over. Luke doesn't fear the encounter deck too much. Mm-hmm. And the +1 book is nice for his book builds, though it is tough for her to compete with the likes of Dr. Milan and Jeremiah Kirby. Next, we've got Dr. William T. Malison. This guy costs 1, and he can take 2 heart damage and 2 brain damage, and he has some text as well. But that's the real reason you play him, is to soak the damage for you. He can also cycle through the encounter cards, I guess, at the cost of one of your clues. But it's like not ideal in most cases. For Luke, a lot of the times, whatever card you draw is going to be take less than the one action it would take you to pick up that clue.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Still great soak though.
Hell yeah. Bryn, why don't you keep Dunwich going?
All right, we got Pathfinder. This one just as a lightning bolt, you move. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not too much more to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
We got Deduction level 2. As said before, more clues, more better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hasn't changed. We got the upgraded Shriveling. The difference here is that you get +2 to your brain score. And I don't believe anything else has changed. But that +2 is the difference between 4 and 6, which is like 6 is a perfectly reasonable score to be trying to fight at, and 4 is less so. We've got the Relic Hunter and Charisma. They're both just extra slot, one accessory, one ally. Both kind of good. If you want them, you're going to know that you want them. They're permanent and easy to proxy if you don't have the cycle. We got the level 4 Rite of Seeking. This one is definitely falls into the category of more clues, more better. Just another way to leverage your brain score to do something. This one gains you 3 clues as the action. So even if you end your turn, it doesn't matter too much. The level 5 Shriveling. The difference here is that it gets +3 brain instead of +2 over the level 3, and deals +2 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Downside is that you can take a whole lot more horror, but that's okay. Luke's built for that. The level 5 Shriveling, level 5 Ward of Protection, is it cancels anything. And all of it.
Just says bye.
Yeah.
All right, we're on to Carcosa. So the first card here we have in Carcosa is No Stone Unturned. Choose an investigator location. They get to search the top 6 cards for a card, draw and shuffle the deck. This can be used on yourself or, hey, an investigator in an adjacent location, because Luke can do that. If your deck requires specific cards, or someone with your group requires a specific card, No Stone Unturned is a really good option for that. Uncage the Soul. It's a staple. It helps you play things at a cheaper cost. Luke Robinson is a little bit lucky because he is yellow, which means he can do anything. And that includes resource generation. But still, more economy is always a good thing. And that's a good option for that. We have David Renfield. He does a lot of things. He soaks 2 damage. He gives you resources. And he gives you brain, which are all things that Luke Robinson is very happy to do. We always love it, David Renfield, and the only thing with David is, as we always say, is you're going to need a plan. You don't just want to give yourself a bunch of ancient evils. You're going to want to kill him eventually. So just something to be aware with David, but he is still very, very good. Storm of Spirits. This is a kill spell that attacks one enemy at your location, but deals its damage to every enemy at your location. And it has that same sort of asterisk that just says Luke with events can do kind of some fun things. So if you just want to kill a bunch of things, the downside is that this token will deal you 1 damage to each investigator at your location, and you're at that location. So it's just something that, just be aware of that this could end up dealing some damage to you when you play it. Logical Reasoning, you can play only if you have a clue. You choose an investigator location. That investigator either heals 2 horror or discards a terror card from their threat area. While horror is not really Luke's concern, it could be someone else's concern, or alternatively, the campaign you're going with can have a lot of terror cards. This is just a nice card that you can just put into your deck. In addition, it also commits for 2 brains, which is the stat you're probably going to be using a good chunk of the time. So worst case, it's a guts that doesn't replace itself. We have Eureka. This commits for almost a wild minus the fist, and which is relevant because, as I said, you're using your brain and your book, and then even your foot to defend yourself. And if it's successful, you get to search the top 3 cards of your of your deck for a card, and then you draw it. It's just a nice skill that can replace itself with the best card of the top 3 of your deck. And then we have St. Hubert's Key, which is just phenomenal in Luke Robinson, because you have 9 horror, and you're going to be using your brain and your book the majority of the time in this game. It's just a really good asset in Luke, and any mystic who has like high book, St. Hubert's Key just has a really nice home in that deck. And then last thing here is we got Forewarned. When you draw a non-weakness treachery card, place one of your clues on your location, then cancel that card's revelation effect. This kind of sits into the similar boat of William T. Mailson that Travis was talking about. While Luke doesn't need this effect as much as other people do, it's still an option if you do want more of this effect in your deck. Travis, I'll throw you these 3 easy cards.
Excellent. We have Upgraded Shortcut. It's fast. You only play it during your turn. You get to attach your location. The attached location gains Lightning Bolt to exhaust the shortcut to move to a connecting location. For Luke especially, quite often level 0 shortcut is the way to go, but there are a couple scenarios and by extension campaigns where shortcut level 2 is very, very strong, especially where Luke can drop it at basically any location that he likes. It's very good for getting the rest of the group out of a location, for example. We got level 2 Ward Protection. This one is the same as level 1 or level 0, except you can cancel any card's revelation effect, regardless of what location they're at. This card's great for multiplayer and garbage if you're playing by yourself. And we got Key of Use. This one can soak some brain damage for you. And then sometimes it gives you some stats too.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Sick. All right. Bryn, we're in the Forgotten Age. What cards do we got here?
We got the Tooth of Etzley. This one is a accessory slot item. Gives you +1 brain and +1 foot, while resolving an effect on a treachery card. And when you succeed at a skill test on a treachery card, you can exhaust the Tooth to draw 1 card. It's just a solid defensive option. Bump you up to 5 and 4 during the Mythos phase. Not a bad way to go. We got Enraptured. This one is uniquely good here, because if this skill is successful during an investigation, you place 1 charge on an asset or secret on an asset you control. But the secrets are not important. The charges are what's important here. We get to put more Witchweed into the box, and more magic journeys is it's like more clues, but different. Mm-hmm. It's just good. We got Vantage Point. This one's 1-costed fast. Play after a location enters play or is revealed during an investigator's turn. I imagine that would be kind of wild if you could play it outside of an investigator's turn. Until the end of the active investigator's turn, that location gets -1 shroud. You may move 1 clue to that location from any other location. It's just kind of neat. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of possible utility that this card can have. Conversely, sometimes it's kind of not very good. That also happens. But in those cases, it commits for a book and a foot. Mm-hmm. Those are pretty okay. We got Mists of Relia. They're for evading with your brain. But you can also evade pretty close to for free with the gate box if you really need to. Mm-hmm. We got Arcane Research. I don't like this card. But it's very strong. It's in the Purple Staples video. Mm-hmm. You can hear us talk about it more there. It just makes your stuff cheaper to buy. The Crystalline Elder Sign. I'm a huge fan of this card, assuming that you are playing on normal or easier. Though if you're playing on easier, it probably doesn't actually matter too much. So for 3 and your accessory slot, you seal the +1 or the Elder Sign token. You get +1 to all your numbers. So, like you drew the +1 every time you run a test. Mm-hmm. Your teammates might not be so happy with it, but that's okay. They're not important. We got Shards of the Void. This one is very similar to Shriveling. It's a way to fight with your brain. It's a little bit of a weird one, though, for several reasons. One, it has no level 0 and no level 5 option. And two, it seals tokens on it sometimes when they are revealed during the fight test. 0 tokens. And it gets better at fighting the more 0 tokens are on it. And you can also spend the 0 tokens that are sealed on it as though they were charges to use it more. It's kind of cool.
Definitely. All right. Oh, we're already in Circle Undone. Holy, I was expecting some more Forgotten Age. Okay, we got Fingerprint Kit. We covered this in our clue video, but basically more clues equals more better. It still follows that same formula we've discussed earlier. We have Deny Existence. This is a staple. It's just a really good card. If you would do, like, discard cards, loot resources, actions, take damage, or horror, you just ignore that aspect of the effect. You're like, no thanks, I'm going to choose one of these and I'm just going to say no thank you, but nice try. We got Prophesy. This card's a fun little skill where it starts with 1 wild. If there's 3 Doom in play, it becomes 2 wild. If there are 6 or more Doom in play, it becomes 3 wild. Just like a great card that actually scales to the important points of the game. The least important time, more often than not, where you need to make a test is when you're, like, on the first few turns. And then the most important time usually happens when you're, like, backs against the wall because you're about to Doom tick over and you're like, I really got to pass this. And Prophesy is really good at that point. And it also just kind of, like, it just scales with the game in an interesting way for a skill card that's, like, always helpful. We have Crack the Case, which is a staple. And as I said earlier, it also just helps Luke get money, and money is always a good time. Mr. Rook is another staple that we talk about in greater detail for the in the staple video. But one thing is, as Travis was saying with Luke, is that his personal weakness is pretty soft. It basically just takes you out for a turn. And do you know what's even better? Choosing the moment where you're going to be taken out of, right? So just like using Mr. Rook for that is really nice. Hawkeye Folding Camera is also in our clue staple video. This one is really good with Luke as well because the awkward thing with Hawkeye Folding Camera is that the first step, the brain step, is kind of awkward for a lot of Seekers. They want that book step first. But Luke can take advantage of that brain step immediately, which is really nice. So that's why Hawkeye Folding Camera can be a nice option for clue getting for Luke Robinson. And then these last 2 spells on this slide, we have Wither and Sixth Sense. These are ways for you to fight or investigate without having to spend charges. The fighting on Wither is kind of... It's still an option, but it's not nearly as strong as some of the others. While Sixth Sense can be a good tool, but it doesn't have the burst clue potential that some of the others have. But we talk about these in greater detail in the spell video, which you can find down in the description. Travis, why don't you keep Circle Undone going?
We got Knowledge's Power up first. This is a 0-cost event that's fast, but during your turn, you get to pick a tome or a spell you control, or reveal a tome or spell asset from your hand, and then you can resolve an action or a lightning bolt ability on that card, ignoring all costs, including the action if it has one. And then if the effect was from a card in your hand, you may discard that card to draw a card. This card can be very, very strong when you're playing a variety of spells, or tomes. The spells especially, where you can use it as like a fast way to trigger your level 4 Rite of Seeking or whatever, and just get another 3 clues without spending an action or a charge. It's very good. Next up, we have the Occult Lexicon, and it's bonded card, the Bloodright. Lexicon, you play it, you get 3 copies of Bloodright, 1 goes to your hand, 2 get shuffled into your deck. The Bloodright commits for some symbols, and then the effect is you get to draw 2 cards, then discard up to 2 from your hand, and for each card thusly discarded, you can either gain a resource or spend a resource to deal 1 damage to an enemy in your location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. This card is very, very good in everyone who can play it. It takes up a hand slot. It's testless damage. It's a resource card. It is card filtering. Um, Luke Robinson can use it to snipe enemies from across the map. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Uh, then we got Death 13. Bundle this one with the Four of Cups to the right, where they just give you +1 book or +1 brain. Again, those stat boosts are particularly nice for Luke with his lackluster stats. Only 1 experience. We are level 5, Deny Existence, which is briefly covered in the Staples video, but it's just the level 0, except you get to, it's really good. You get to do the thing that they want to take away from you. We got level 1 Banish next. This is a 2-cost event that lets you evade using, you can only use it on a non-lead enemy, and you get to use your brain instead of your foot. If you succeed, you can move the enemy just evade to any location in play, and if you succeed and a symbol token is revealed during the attempt, the enemy does not raid during the next investigation phase. This one again is a little bit scenario dependent, but it could be very strong to just shunt an enemy across the map, and then you never have to think about them, and it's basically like killing them.
Mm-hmm.
Except like sometimes better, because then there isn't the chance that you'll draw them again from the encounter deck.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got our Wither, which is covered in the spells video, the level 4 version. Gives you +2 brain, and then if you reveal a symbol, the enemy gets +1 fight, +1 health, and +1 evade for the remainder of the turn into a minimum of 1.
Mm-hmm. All right, Bryn, why don't you finish off Circle Undone?
All right, we got the upgraded Sixth Sense. If you're playing normal Sixth Sense, this one is the same thing, only much, much better. You get +2 instead of +0, and often you get to discover a clue at a different location and yours. Because this one allows you to be at both places instead of only one of them.
Magic.
More clues, more better. We got Vermis Mysterious. This one you can exhaust to play a spell or an insight event from your discard pile, reducing its resource cost by 1. After the event resolves, you gotta from the game, because that would be not entirely fair if you could just play the same thing until the game ended. You do need to plan to deal with the Doom on this, because it will end up being a lot. However, that plan could be some form of spell or insight, such as a Moonlight Ritual.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Diana Esperance. She's got uses 3 secrets. Every time that I see this card, I think that as part of the cost for the Lightning Bolt, she has to take a damage too.
No.
She doesn't.
She's a good witch, not a bad witch.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, you can, as a Lightning Bolt, attach a non-weakness spell event from your hand to Diana Esperance. Limit 1 event attached to her. The attached event may be played as if it were in your hand. You gotta spend one of the secrets as well.
Sweet. All right.
She kind of does like a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, no, she does. Yeah.
You can pick an event that you want to play several times in a game. She soaks 3 meat damage, which helps make up for our crappy meat stat.
Yeah.
The only thing she doesn't do is give you a static buff to one of the skills that you want to use.
But that's what your other slots are for, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, you got other asset slots.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good spell events. Like, we're gonna, especially, we haven't even seen like some really juicy ones coming up here.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you just put level 0 Deny Existence or Ward of Protection underneath her, like, hey,
it's still good.
Life's pretty good.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. On to the Dream Eaters. This is Luke's cycle. Yay, Luke. So, we have Open Gate. This allows you, it's a Myriad. So Myriad, there's going to be a few Myriad cards here. You get to, when you add it to your deck, you get to add up to 3, as opposed to the, usual rules. So Open Gate is Myriad, so you can have 3 of these. Play only during your turn, it's fast. Attach your location, group limit 3 in play, because the designers hate fun. Investigators may move between any 2 locations with an attached open gate as if they were connected. So this is a good way, especially if you have big maps, like in some of the more recent campaigns. It's a way to make the map really tiny and turn everyone else into a bad Luke Robinson. While you're just zipping around everywhere, they have to go through the gates that you have designated they are allowed to walk through. We have Astounding Revelation, another Myriad card. It cannot be played, but it can be committed for 1 book. Worst case scenario, you do draw it. When you search your deck and Astounding Revelation is among them, you can either gain 2 resources or place 1 secret on an asset you control. Max 1 research ability per search. This is just a good way to gain resources or place secrets if you have things that care about secrets, which you probably might. You probably do. And it's just a good card, especially if you're going to be searching through your deck with things like Mr. Rook or the upcoming Practice Makes Perfect that we have coming up here. Scroll of Prophecies. If you want card draw, use your Seeker side. But if you don't have the Seeker card draw, you can just use Scroll of Prophecies. It takes up your hand slot, costs 3, 4 secrets, spend a secret, choose an Investigator location, they draw 3 cards, then discard 1 card from their hand. This also can work for helping your teammates draw cards as well. I'm going to talk about Read the Signs and Spectral Razor together, even though they have their awkward third sibling kind of standing in the middle of them right now. We're going to just ignore that sibling for a second, but we're going to talk about Read the Signs and Spectral Razor. You can find both of these in our staple videos. These are absolute bangers of a spell. Read the Signs investigates, you add your brain to your book, so like 7. And then you ignore any effect or keyword on your location, which would trigger during the investigation. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue. And then Spectral Razor has, your brain, you add it, which turns high. And then you also get to attack an enemy, engage the enemy if you're not engaged with it, deal +1 damage, +2 if the enemy is non-elite. I'm talking about these ones in greater detail here because of Luke Robinson and his ability to play events at connecting locations, which makes these things just even better than they already are. Then there is Ethereal Form, which is not like bad, but it just doesn't do as much. But that's just like the very nature of evading. Add your brain value to your skill value, so you still get a evade at 7. If you succeed, disengage from each other enemy engage with you, and for the remainder of the round, you are ethereal. And then they have to define what that means. Enemies cannot engage or be engaged with you, and you cannot attack or deal damage to enemies. You turn into a ghost. How fun. This one is still an option in Luke, especially like if you've... The thing is, like, Luke also has his gate box, but this can be really good for helping someone else get away from enemies. Like, if someone is engaged with, like, 3 enemies, and you're like, don't worry, No, that doesn't work either. No, it doesn't work either. It doesn't, you just disengage with them. Now, I don't even know, I think this card, it still has a thing, but I don't know. We're going to go on a Practice Makes Perfect here. It's a staple. Card's fantastic. When you're looking at your deck, if you have a bunch of practice skills, like, say, a perception, a deduction, some other things, the Enraptured is also practiced, I believe. It's just something you want to include. And then we have Otherworld Codex. Uses 3 secrets. You can exhaust it and spend 1 secret, search the top 9 cards of the encounter deck, and choose a non-elite card among them. Discard a copy of the chosen card from play. Shuffle all of the search cards back into the encounter deck. This card does... get better with certain campaigns, but even then, this is like just some potential to be a really good way to deal with things, especially permanent cards or like cards that are attached to investigators that you otherwise have to do something hard or they cannot be getting rid of. Even if you get to kill an enemy with this, it's still just a good time. Travis, why don't you finish up Dream Eaters?
The only level of Stargazing. It's a 0-cost event. You can play it max twice per game. You can only play if there are 10 more cards in the encounter deck. You get to search your bond cards for a copy of the Stars Are Right and shuffle in the top 10 cards of the encounter deck. Stars Are Right is an event, and on Revelation, you remove it from the game. You choose an Investigator, and that Investigator gets to draw a card, gain a resource, and they may take an immediate action as though it were their turn. It's a nice way to... It's like pseudo... encounter deck protection, which is nice. Just a neat and fun card you can play. Yeah. And we got Twilight Catherine Price, who is an ally, and as a reaction, after you spend 1 more charges from a spell asset, you can exhaust her to put a charge on that asset. So you just always get to use your spells. You can use your Clairvoyance or your Rite of Seeking or your Shriveling or whatever once a turn for free. Yep. She's very good in the ally slot. While she doesn't boost up any of your stats, she does allow you to get extra value out of your experience. If you have a level 5 Shriveling and you can normally get to use it 3 or 4 times or whatever it is, you get to use it one more. It's like extra experience you put into your deck, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet. All right. Bryn. Innsmouth. The easiest slide of them all.
Kinda is. If you'd like a more detailed breakdown of the Bless and Curse cards, you can check the video description for a link to the relevant guides. Yeah, Luke does sit in kind of a neat place to abuse the Curse archetype. Because you get all the sweet yellow cards, and then the cool purple ones, too. The cards we do have here, we got Promise of Power. This card is just, like, kind of stupid good.
Yeah.
You got it, you should probably try playing it. We got Stirring Up Trouble. This one's really good if you want to either discover clues without tests, discover clues at locations you're not at, or put curse tokens into the bag. If you want to do any one of those things, or possibly more than one, this card's really quite strong. 0 to discover 2 clues is pretty good. I honestly don't really care what I have to pay.
Yeah.
At that point. Got the Eldritch Sophist. This guy cheats at chess. He's clearly trying to move a rook diagonal. But he uses 3 secrets, and as a lightning bolt you can exhaust him to move a secret or a charge from one asset you control to another asset controlled. Well, I mean, like, it doesn't have to be yours. It could be any investigators, but let's be real, it's going to be yours.
Greed. Greed is good.
He can reload your gate box with any other sort of garbage asset you might have that uses charges. And that's pretty cool. That's only the most basic thing he can do. We're not going to get into it because there's too many different things that he can do. But he's real cool. You should take him for a spin. We got the Truth Beckons. You can only play it if you are not engaged with an enemy, which, I mean, you're Luke Robinson, that won't be hard. You get to move. You choose an unrevealed location, and you move one location at a time. And along the shortest path to that location, until you either enter the location or are stopped by, game effects or enemies. It's pretty alright. I will say that you kind of have a gate box that lets you do this all the time. Or something very similar to this all the time. The location has to be revealed that you enter with the gate box, though. So that's where the utility niche sits.
No, this is when you move to the location and you're like, yeah, no, I don't want to be here. You hop in the gate box and go back to the other location.
I'm going to move to the other end of the map. Want to see me do it again?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just when you want to flex on the game.
Yeah. Spend actions moving. Nah. We got the Abyssal Tome. It is a 2-costed asset that you can exhaust it and fight. You may use either your brain or your book for this attack instead of punch. You may, so you can choose to fight it 4, 3, or 2. It's your choice. When you initiate the attack, you may place 1 Doom on Abyssal Tome, to a maximum of 3. You get +1 skill value and deal +1 damage for this attack for each Doom on the Abyssal Tome. +3 damage is a lot. You do have to exhaust the tome to use it, so you can't just, fight for +1, fight for +2, fight for +3. Which makes sense, I suppose, if you really stop to think about it. But the card's a neat option for dealing with enemies in Luke.
Hell yeah. Alright. On to Edge of the Earth. Alright, we got Jeremiah Kirby. As Travis was saying, this is a very good ally for anyone who can run it. You get +1 book, and then after Ender's play, choose even or odd, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, draw each card with a cost that matches the chosen option, shuffle the remaining cards into your deck. +1 book, and more cards. Sounds great. We have the level 0 Ethereal Slip. This is, you can choose a non-elite enemy to reveal location up to 2 connections away, swap places with that enemy. This one is a little bit weird because with the Luke stuff, you can choose an enemy that's like technically, if you haven't used your ability yet, you can like choose an enemy that's 3 locations away, switch spots with it, but it goes into the location that you was 2 away from it. Luke, he's weird. He does things. He goes around in a robe all day. We don't question it. We got heavy furs. This takes up your body slot, which is not that contested. And after you reveal a non-autofail symbol, you can deal 1 damage to having heavy furs, cancel that token, or return it and reveal a new one. Of note, symbols are not numbers, as I just originally read this card when I first played it. This only cancels symbol tokens, so that includes Bless, Curse, Skull, Tablet, Squid, Cultist, and Frost, I think, are all of the symbol tokens currently in the game. We have Down the Rabbit Hole, which, like Arcane Research, just helps you upgrade. So you reduce the experience cost of the first 2 cards you upgrade before the next scenario by 1, but you increase the experience cost for each one you purchase by 1. Just another thing that Mystic cards, like as Travis was saying, they're very XP heavy. And this allows you to get there quicker, but you do need a plan for this one, like you also need to plan for Arcane Research. We have the Brand of Cthugha, level 1 and level 4. These we talk about in our spell videos, and they have the Edge of the Earth mechanic where you only spend the charges if you are successful, and you choose the number of charges you want to spend equal to the amount of damage you want to do. It's a nice option if you do have it, and you are looking at them. They seem all right. And then we got Prophetic and Antiquary. So these follow the same kind of formula where they come in with 2 resources. They each cost 3. You replenish the resources at the start of each round. Resources on them may be spent for Fortune, Spell, or Spirit cards for Prophetic, and Favor, Relic, and Ritual for Antiquary. You can also then, as a Lightning Bolt during a skill test, you can spend a resource from it to get +1 for the types that matter for each card. Prophetic is really nice because you're going to have a lot of spells that you got to play. And it also can basically act as a guts for when you're doing spells as well. Antiquary, if you have a lot of Favor, Relic, and Rituals, also definitely worth trying out. Travis, why don't you keep this one going?
Sure. We got our divinations here, level 1, level 4. These follow the same pattern as the Brand of Cthugha, where there are charges on it, and when you investigate, you get to use your brain or the relevant stat. In this case, it's your book. And you get +1 skill value on the level 1, +2 on the level 4. In level 1, you get to spend either 1 or 2 charges. Level 4 lets you spend 1, 2, or 3, and then you get 1 clue for each charge you spent. And then if you succeed by 0, you have to discard some cards from your hand, which is, who cares? Get a bunch of free clues. This card is particularly good in Luke because you probably already want to be, especially like the book builds of Luke, where it allows you to get extra clues using your book with the skill boost, and also you can use the Enraptured to recharge it if you happen to not need that charge for your gatebox. It's been a really nice addition to his card pool, in my opinion. Next up, we got Hyping Boots, 2 cost asset, and 1 footwear. You get +1 foot, which boosts Luke's foot up to a nice, comfortable 4. After the last clue is discovered from your location, you get to exhaust it to move to a connecting location with at least 1 clue, or to a connecting unrevealed location. Another great choice for Luke, where you can just zip around the map and flip over locations for free and just get free actions with this, because you can always go back if you need to with the gatebox very easily. Next up, we got Protecting the Anirique. This is a 2 cost event. Fast play after an ally asset at your location is discarded by a card effect or defeated. You can either return that asset to its owner's hand, or its owner draws 3 cards. It's a nice way to reload or support your teammates, or if you or one of your teammates has an ally who is particularly integral to your plan dies, this is a nice way to get them back. Provide some security for that. Then we got Survey the Area. It's a 1 cost or 1 experience skill, and while it's in your hand or commit to a skill test, you get book icons equal to your foot, or foot icons equal to your book. This is just an okay option for Luke. Honestly, there's a lot better options in the other cycles, but if you have limited card pool, it's a fine choice, boosting either your foot or your book up to 6 for a test. Got level 2 Ethereal Slip. It's a 1 cost event. You choose a non-lead enemy at any revealed location. You swap places with that enemy. Just another big movement trick for Luke. Um, yeah. Astronomical Atlas. It's a 3-cost asset. It's a lightning bolt. You can exhaust it to look at the top card of your deck, and if it is not a weakness, you can attach a face down. You have to attach a face down to the Atlas. As a lightning bolt, you can commit one of the cards attached to the Atlas to an eligible skill test, and then if that test succeeds, you add that card to your hand instead of discarding it. This card is very good for Luke, because he's one of the few investigators who can truly, really effectively build around it. Is he can both play it and the research librarian to dig it out of his deck whenever he feels like. And he also has he gets access to all the really strong yellow skills, like deduction and deduction.
Yeah, and deduction, and then Enraptured is also good. Enraptured's also sick. Yeah,
that's a purple one though.
That is a purple one. That is true. That's just in the kit. You're right.
Yeah.
What's the other? I guess Eureka's good.
Eureka's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, then we got Grounded. This is the Composure. 0 to play, 3 experience. It's fast. You can only have 1 Composure in play. Soaks 2 hearts and 2 brains. That 2 hearts can be pretty nice for Luke. And you get +1 skill value during all skill tests on your spell cards. Great for Luke and his fledgling stats. And non-direct damage and horror must be assigned to the ground before other cards. Before your investigator cards, or not other cards. You can still assign it to your allies or to a teammate's True Grit or what have you before you choose to put it onto the Grounded. As a lightning bolt during a skill test on a spell card, you can spend a resource, get +1 value to that test. This is another great way to just boost your skills up as Luke, especially if you are focusing on spells.
Yeah. All right, Bryn, why don't you finish off Edge of the Earth?
All right. We got the Earthly Serenities. These guys, they let you test Brain 1 and Brain 0, respectively, and then if you succeed, for each point you succeeded by, you can spend a charge to heal 1 damage or 1 horror from an investigator at your location. If you succeed by 0, you lose some resources, but that's not, stuff happens. It's a solid way to either keep your teammates rather healthy or offset your very low heart score. I got that true magic. It's oh man, this one's a level 5 4-costed asset. It takes up a hand slot and an arcane slot because it is magic. It's got uses 1 charge. You replenish the charge at the start of each round. You may resolve abilities on spell assets in your hand by revealing them from your hand. Treat true magic as if it were the revealed asset. To pay its costs, spend charges, perform the effect, etc. So this kind of just lets you never actually have to play your spell assets. You can just have this in play and be like, every turn I get to do 1 spell thing. Which is kind of neat if you're playing some sort of jack of all trades, Luke Robinson. A Luke of all trades, if you will.
Choose not to.
Yeah, because you can use this to use your investigating cards, while also still being able to use your combat spells every turn, like once every turn if you need to.
Yeah,
it's kind of neat. This card's also kind of cool with the guy who cheats at chess, the Eldritch Sophist, because you can just shuffle the charge off of it to a different asset every turn, and it'll replenish itself next turn. So it's like an infinite battery. We got the Words of Power. This one's just place 2 charges on an asset you control. Or after you draw during your turn, you can just play it for free.
Boom.
Kind of cool. Yeah. And the Occult Theory. It's a skill card with no icons, but while it is in your hand or committed to a skill test, it gains brain equal to your book and book equal to your brain. Those are our 2 good ones. It's not a bad place to be. You get to test at 7 on either one.
Hell yeah.
Seems pretty alright to me.
Alright. we're at the return to boxes. So, just writing down a time code. We've seen most of these ones before, but we're going to talk about them in a bit more detail here because they're new and fancy and upgraded. We got preposterous sketches. It costs 0 now. Play only if there's a clue on your location. Draw 3 cards. This one's also, once again, really nice with Luke because you can as if this to a location with clues if you don't want to move there, because who moves these days when you can just teleport? We have the level 2 Rite of Seeking. This is like where you stop if you're playing 2-player most of the time. However, even if you're like playing 3 players, it's a good stopping point because it works especially well with something like 2 arcane researches or like a down the rabbit hole, you know? And we talk about that once again. We've talked about it here and in the spell video. Upgraded Storm of Spirits costs 3 plus 2 Brain, and it deals 3 damage to each enemy at your location. The downside is now if you reveal one of the symbol tokens, that's not like the good one, you deal 2 damage to each investigator at your location, which is a lot more than 1 in terms of when you have 5. When you have 5 health, that is a lot more than 1. Great for killing David, though. David just gets swallowed up by a Storm of Spirits if you draw one of those tokens. We have the level 2 Miss of Rilia. It evades, and we talk about that in the spell video. Now we got a new card here, the Hierophant 5. You have 1 additional arcane slot. Your arcane slots can be used to hold cards that take up accessory slots and vice versa. And it's a tarot card, so when the game begins, if it's in your hand, you get to put it into play. This one's really good if you have you want to play a lot of magic spells, or if you want to play a lot of accessories, or vice versa, as the card says. We have the level 3 Sign Magic. This card's pretty fun. It's fast, takes up a hand slot. You have 1 additional arcane slot, which can only be used to hold a spell or ritual asset. As a reaction, after you activate an action ability on a spell or ritual asset, exhaust Sign Magic, activate an action ability on a different spell or ritual asset you control without paying its cost. So this is just like you can bounce between spells as you go through this. This can be really fun. I've seen it. I've seen people do it with the Sixth Sense Wither, even with like some of the other spells, like even just like bouncing from like a Rite of Seeking, like a shriveling to a Rite of Seeking. Of note, it doesn't. It doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity, so you can shrivel and then just write it and then like grab like something with like a clairvoyance or something like that. Rite of Seeking's a bit risky because you can just bomb your whole turn, but still, Sign Magic is still just a nice thing if you want to do like lots of spell slinging. And then we got Moon Pendant, 2 cost, 2 experience, takes up the accessory slot. You have 1 additional tarot slot. Each non-weakness tarot asset in your hand committed to a skill test gains Wild, and when the game begins, you can put it into play. This one is not going to appear on a lot of other lists, but I can imagine that Travis put it here because Luke can take advantage of both the Brain and the Book tarot asset, so this is a good way that you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sick. All right, Travis, why don't you take us through these Investigator decks to start us off?
Sure. We got Witten Green. She is an ally that while you control Tome or Relic, you get +1 book, and after you reveal location or put a new location at play, you can exhaust her, look the top 6 cards of your deck for Tome or Relic asset, and draw it. It's nice for book, Luke. It's a good way to dig out some of your relevant tomes or potentially relics. Both Seeker and Mystic have quite a few options for those. We got a big pile of Azure Flame and Clairvoyance here. Azure Flame is like Shriveling, except you take a damage when you reveal a star, a +1 or a 0, instead of the horror that Shriveling does when you reveal the bat symbols. Yeah. And then Clairvoyance is like Azure Flame, except you get clues. And if you draw the symbols, you take a horror. Yeah. Hypnotic Gaze. This is fast play when an enemy attacks an investigator location. Cancel the attack, then reveal a random token from the Chaos Bag. If it has one of the symbols, you get to deal the attack enemy's damage to itself. This card itself isn't that great in general. The level 2 version, I think, is like pretty okay. But Luke does get some extra flexibility out of it in that you don't have to actually be at the same location as the person. You can be in your gate box, you can be, or in your Wondrous Journey, whatever it's called, or you can just like be next to them.
Yeah. All right, Bryn, why don't you keep this one going?
Got the Robes of Endless Night. This one is a 3-costed asset, takes up your body slot, which, I mean, there's honestly not much competition for in these colors. As a reaction, when you play a spell card, you exhaust Robes of Endless Night to reduce the cost of that card by 1. A lot of the good events that Luke could play are spell cards. Plus, it soaks for 2 heart damage, which is kind of important. We've got the Voice of Ra. This card is like... it's like Emergency Cash if you have a gambling addiction. You get to reveal tokens for each symbol token. You get 2 resources. You gain 1 resource as base, so you only need to reveal 1 of them in order for it to be an Emergency Cash. It is also a spell which occasionally matters, so it has that going for it too. We got Witten Green. She's a collector of rare books, whatever. If you control a tome or a relic asset, like, I don't know, maybe a gate box, then you get +1 brain and +1 book, which are the 2 numbers that we care about. She has another effect too, where after you reveal a location or put a new location into play, you can exhaust her to search the top 9 cards of your deck for a tome or a relic asset and draw it, then shuffle your deck. She also soaks for 2 and 3, which is like above curve for an ally who gives you +1 to 2 of your numbers.
Yeah.
How does this work with the Wondrous Journey? I have no idea, and I'm not going to find out.
This goes back to like the Travis question of like,
yeah.
If, the Travis sentiment, like, if you don't know, just don't do it.
Yeah, like, is it a new location? Maybe. Maybe not. Somebody in the YouTube comments will...
they'll let us know. They'll specify.
Yeah, they're good like that.
It does seem sick, though, if it does work that way.
Yeah, if it does work like that, like, oh, man. Got the upgraded I've Got a Plan. You get to fight using your book instead of your punch. You get +2 for the test, and you deal +1 damage for each clue you have to a maximum of +3 damage. It's just a lot of damage. That's all. We got Seeking Answers, the upgraded one. Investigate. If you succeed, you discover 2 total clues from among your location and a connecting location. Or connecting locations. So I suppose the clues could be you just get to discover 2 clues. You're Luke Robinson. It can be anything. We got the Ineffable Truths. These ones are just a way to leverage your brain to do something. You get to evade and do a damage if you succeed. Yeah.
Sweet. Finishing off the Investigator decks, we have the level 2 Perception. This commits for 3 books, and if you succeed by 2 or more, it draws 2 cards instead. This is like and I guess Guts is also right next to it as well, commits for 3 brain. Same thing, if you succeed by 2 or more, you draw 2 cards. These aren't like priority upgrades, but if you're reaching the end and you're looking at that Perception or Guts in your deck and you're like, you know what I want to do? I want to make this card a little bit better. And they do perform very nice. Like these perform very well, but they're by no means a priority upgrade. We have Robes of Endless Night, the upgraded one. When you would play it, does not provoke attacks of opportunity. What is the difference between these two? I don't even know.
This one stops them from provoking attacks of opportunity, and it costs 1 less.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Bryn. Thank you. We have Hypnotic Gaze. This is the one Travis talked about that actually should not have been here. But as I always say with these videos, the first one, when we get into the Investigator decks, Travis could put like an Investigator in here, and there's like a 30% chance I'd include it in the slide. We have Hypnotic Gaze. Fast play when an enemy attacks you. Cancel that attack, then reveal a random token. If it has one of the bad symbols, deal damage to the attacking enemy equal to its damage or horror. So as Travis was saying, and it can just like... Costing 2 is nice, and it can potentially just kill that enemy. Like you can have it stop hitting itself to death. Has the potential to be nice. We have Grotesque Statue, level 2, cost 3. 3 charges. If it has no charge, you can discard it. When you reveal a Chaos token, spend 1 charge. Reveal 2 instead of 1. Choose one of the resolve and ignore the other. So if you're going up to the bigger one and you want like a stepping point, or if you're even happy with like the stepping point, this is an option. And then we have the level 4 Arcane Studies. This card is sweet in Luke because if you haven't figured it out by now, he cares about both his brain and his book. And this allows you to increase those. You can spend a resource from it or your resource pool to increase them by 1, and it comes with 2 resources, and those resources are replenished at the start of each round. Just a really nice card for Luke. And with that, we come to the deck list. Travis, I hope I've been doing your deck list justice for these, for the 2 that we've recorded without you. But I'll throw this to you for this Luke Robinson deck.
Yeah, so this is like the book version of Luke that I like to play. Like I mentioned at the start, there's lots of different ways to play Luke, but this is my favorite. We're playing St. Hubert's Key, which boosts up our brain and also our book. We got our magnifying glass as well as our Hawkeye folding camera. And Dr. Milan, lots of ways, lots of assets that get that book value high enough to consistently investigate. For economy, we have Crack the Case and Deep Knowledge and Dr. Milan. It actually isn't too much in this deck that costs all that much, actually. We have a couple events, and then our starting assets is really just Dr. Milan, who pays for himself, and the St. Hubert's Key. We have our Deny Existence and War Protections to protect from the encounter deck. And we have our Read the Signs, because it's just a great way to get clues, especially when you can suck them off of any location. We got those shortcuts that I talked about earlier in the video. And finally, we have the Practice Makes Perfect package, because Luke gets one of the best Practice Makes Perfect packages in the game, because you don't have to play any, like, garbage skills for it. Where you get access to your deductions, which is the one that you want, and then you get access to Perception to help push up your book score. You have access to Promise of Power, because you just need to pass tests sometimes. It doesn't matter what they are. And Luke gets full value, like always gets value out of Enraptured on that book test to put another charge onto his gate box.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Hopefully everybody that has helped you know some notable cards for Luke Robinson if you've come to be like, what the heck should I put in this deck? I only have this cycle, and hopefully we have helped you here. For the next episode of this, we're going to be talking about my boy, Silas Marsh. I'm looking forward to that. We'll see you guys then. Again, if you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And also leave a comment because the YouTube robot loves engagement. He's like, engagement, I'm hungry. And everyone's like, yes, feed the robot. I'm one of them. Feed the robot. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. And as always, feed the robot.